Do you want to sound better when you solo on guitar? If so, you're going to want to check out this guitar lesson. This guitar lesson is for beginner and intermediate guitar players that want to learn how to solo. When I came up with the idea for this guitar lesson, I thought of all these different things I could do, and it started to sound like it was going to make a gigantic lesson, really way too big. So I thought, why don't I just start chop it up into different parts and just kind of go over one concept with each lesson. I think that'll make it much more bite-sized and more enjoyable to do. And, it'll extend over many weeks, so hopefully you'll come back to those lessons as well. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the chord progression that we're going to be using and soloing over in this lesson. It's going to be an A major chord, which is the one chord in the key of A. I'm saying it's in the key of A. So we're going to go A, and we're going to go C sharp minor, which is the 3 minor chord. Then we're going to go to D, which is a 4 chord. I'm playing them as bar chords. You can play them all as open chords if you want. It's just how I'm choosing to do it with some finger picking. And then we're going to go up to E, the 5 chord. So the chord progression is going to be A, C sharp, D, E. To me, in my brain, it's 1, 3, 4, 5. That's referencing what diatonic chords are, how those chords function in the key that we're in, which is A. But don't worry about that. If you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, don't worry about that. Just know that this is what the chord progression is. So in this lesson, the approach that we're going to take, there's so many different ways we could come at it, and I will get into some of those in the future. But in this lesson, all we're going to do is take a look at what the chord is and where do you play the chord tones for that chord. I'm not even going to deal with the sevenths because I'm not playing any of these as seventh chords. They're just either major or minor chords. So we're going to be dealing with the chord tones 1, 3, and 5, which is we're basically playing over top of the triads. So let's go ahead and get in closer and take a look at how to do that. All right, so we already established that the chord progression is going to be A, C sharp minor, D, E. So let's take a look at the first chord with this A right here. I'm going to put the chart up here, and these are going to be the chord tones that you're going to use to solo or to target. So if I get I'm just using a looper here to be strumming an A major chord. So these are going to be your target notes. And we're going to play these. It's going to be 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. So my advice is to practice those. Make sure you know these. You don't always have to use the exact same fingering each time. There's kind of a proper fingering for that pattern, but in reality, you can use whatever you like. So what I want you to be doing is, so as you're soloing, I want you to know where these notes are so you can target them at any given time. So I'm going to let this play a little, and we're going to play through this a couple times. I'm basically just going to play up and back down. All right, here we go. 2, 3, 4. I'm just doing quarter notes. So again. Now you might say, well, that's kind of boring. It's actually incredibly essential. So any chord you're playing over, you should know what the notes are in the chord, and this will help you. This will help you by knowing where the chord tones are in a chord, or the notes in the chord that you're playing. It really helps you make informed decisions on which notes you're going to emphasize, say on a downbeat, as opposed to an offbeat or a stronger beat for a melody. So that's what we're doing here. We're basically getting you to learn the chord tones in the chord. All right, so that's what you're going to be using to solo using A. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the next chord, which is C sharp minor. Okay, for the next chord in the chord progression, that's C sharp minor. You're going to play it right here. And these are going to be the chord tones. It's going to be 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5. Those are going to be the notes. If you look, they're basically the notes you're already playing anyways. I like to add this fifth down here in the bottom. because that's an option as well if you needed to go down. You need to go down with the melody or your solo. So these are the notes. Now I'll go ahead and strum the chord, and let's go ahead and play them along with the chord so we can hear how they sound. 2, 3, 4, starting on the root. Let's do it one more time. All right, so those are your chord tones that you're going to use to solo. These are your triads. Here's your these 3 notes here. That's a C sharp minor, first in or root position triad, 1 flat 3 5. So there's a little triad. This is a little triad here, where I'm playing just the 5 1 and flat 3. So we end up with 3 different triads, and a triad is just a 3-note chord consisting of the root, third, and fifth, whether that's a flat third or a flat fifth. So we have this one, we have this one, and then we have this one. This would be second inversion because it has the fifth in the bottom. It goes 5 1 3. Then if it's first inversion, it goes 3 5 1. This one's a little gloomier down here, but putting the flat third in the bottom, flat 3 5 1. And back down to the root. All right, those are the notes we're going to be using over the 3 chord, the C sharp minor. Now let's take a look at the D chord. Okay, for the D chord, I'm playing it right here. And if you're like, why are you playing here? Why are you not playing it down here? Well, I'm kind of taking a look at how I would solo over this chord progression right here in this area. There's 5 different areas of each scale. I consider this position number 1 because this is around the first position for A major. All right, so the chord tones for this D major chord are going to go 1 3 5 1 3 5 5 3 1 5 3 1. And you can get the fifth down here on the bottom. So like this is the chord it comes out of, just this plain basic D major chord. All right, now let's go ahead and play through those while we listen to the chord. 3 4. Let's do it one more time. All right, and so that was the chord tones or your triads. I kind of think the only 2 triads here in this position that are easy to play are this one here, where it's a root, third, and fifth on strings 1, 2, and 3, and this one right here. You can play it like this, where you have the fifth, the root, and the third. They're the 2 handiest because you can't really play the root, third, and fifth here. You'd have to get down here to play it in can't really play it in this position. All right, so those are your chord tones that we're going to use over D. Now let's take a look at the last chord, which is the 5 chord, which is E. For the E major chord, in keeping right in this area, we're going to be basing it off of this chord right here, this E major. It kind of is the C shape. So if you took this C chord and moved it up, it would be an E chord right here. So we're going to start here with E. It's going to go 1 3 5 1 3 5. Going back, we have 5 1 3 5 1 3. Then we're going to come over here to get 5, and then the third down here, 3 5 1. All right, so now that we've taken a look at those, now let's go ahead and play those while listening to this chord. I believe we have to switch to the next patch. Hopefully this is the right one. Yes, it is. Here we go. 1 2 3 4. Let's do that. Good. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. And the idea here is that, so over top of this E chord, and this is just the chord progression and the style I picked. It could be any song, any style. So that when that E comes along, you have an outline here of what notes that are in the chord that are going to sound really good. They're going to be your strongest chord, strongest notes, your chord tones to target. So if you play these, you kind of target those notes, it's going to sound better. It's going to sound more like you're playing over top of the chords. And ultimately, that's really what we're looking for, right? We just want to sound good over what we're playing. And this is a key idea or concept into sounding good playing over top of chords or music in general. All right, so now that we've learned what are the triads or the chord tones for each of the chords in the chord progression, now we're going to go ahead and start applying that over the actual chord progression. So to start playing over this chord progression, there's a lot of different things you could do. Probably one of the first things I was thinking of, but this will take too long. I'll demonstrate it one time, and then you can go and do it a couple, follow through with the rest of the idea. The first idea is that you go through the chord progression and only play the roots. On the downbeat of 1, you're just going 1, 2, 3, then it goes to C sharp minor, so you go to C sharp. So you're basically just playing the root on the first beat of each chord. So let's go ahead and try it. It's going to go to the C sharp minor chord. Now I got to find the D. Let's go to the 5 chord, E. Just going low. So I like the idea of that concept, but it's going to take too long in this lesson to go through. So really, I would go through that chord progression, targeting the root of each chord, and then go through and target the third. So for in an A chord, target the third. You have the chart there. You're going to target a C sharp. When it goes to the C sharp minor, you're going to target the flat third in there, in that chord. When it goes to D, you're going to target F sharp, which is the third. When it goes to the E chord, you're going to target what is that? A G sharp. You're going to target your G sharps. And then you would then go through that chord progression, and you would then target the fifth of each one. So you would, over the E chord, or the A minor, or the A major chord, you would target the E. When it goes to C sharp minor, you would target the fifth, which is G. Over D, you would target A. Over the E chord, you would target a B. So that, as you can see, that would take a while to run through all that. But that's a concept that would be, it's a real simple, basic concept of just picking one of the chord tones and targeting it as it goes through to the next chord. And everything should sound perfectly fine. It'll sound very nice because these are all chords that belong in the chord. So it's going to sound very nice. It's a very simple way to get a little guitar solo that sounds not perfect, but it might sound boring, but it's going to sound perfect because the notes are all going to work. And then you don't always have to just go, just let it ring for a whole note. You can you can play it a couple times, just kind of mix up the rhythm a little bit. All right, so that's one concept. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another one. All right, so the next concept is going to be, you can play any chord tone you want. So as the chords are going by, you can play any order. Just stick to the chord tones in that chord. And I want you to stick to just only quarter notes. Only quarter notes. They're nice. They're coming in on a downbeat. It's a strong beat. So only play over top of, only chord tones and only on quarter notes over this chord progression. Now I'll go ahead and demonstrate that so you can see what it sounds like. So this is going to be the first concept of a series of how to solo on guitar over chord changes. The first one here being that whatever the chord is, you need to know what are the notes in the chord and be able to target those. In the upcoming ones, I'm going to show you basically how to use other notes, because we're only talking about literally the notes in the chords, but what about all the other notes in the scale and over top of the chords? So we're going to address that in the next lesson. So if you want a backing track, I'm going to put a link down in the description to some backing tracks so that you can play along. You can do your own soloing and playing over top of it. Thanks for taking the time to check out this guitar lesson. If you want to see the rest of the series that I'm going to be doing on how to solo on guitar, then you want to go ahead and subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notifications when I come out with the next lesson. If you would like to get access to a couple different backing tracks in different genres, basically playing over this chord progression, then you can do so over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/GuitArmy.